leafing through scrapbooks retrieved from their attics. Next, I located and interviewed the key figures involved in organizing the project that brought the Maidens to America, including the surgeons who performed their operations. Thanks to a grant from a foundation in Japan willing to pay my way over and back in exchange for a series of articles about my impressions of Hiroshima, I was able to depart for Japan in the summer of 1979. The day I arrived in Hiroshima, I was made aware that the relationship between atomic bomb survivors and the press in that city had become an exceedingly difficult one. The news editor of a major daily newspaper met me at the train station. After escorting me to the newspaper's main office building and leading me through a ceremonious round of civilities with department heads, he casually suggested that we pay a visit to Suze Hiyama, one of the Hiroshima Maidens who had stayed with my family. I had half expected this to come up. It made a good reunion story, but not so abruptly, nor in this manner. I replied that I preferred to wait. Etiquette alone dictated that I should talk with Suze first and clear such a meeting. My hesitation seemed to take him by surprise. Surely, as a fellow journalist, I could see the value of an immediate visit, an experience captured live. It was assumed, I think, that we would have roughly the same aggressive attitude toward news. And, as I later learned, the idea of a detailed follow-up story on the Hiroshima Maidens had tantalized and frustrated Japanese journalists for years. The women either could not be found or reached, or flatly refused to be interviewed. It took some doing to convince my editor friend that I intended to handle this my way, and I was deliberately vague about giving assurances I would keep him informed of my plans so he could arrange for his paper's sister broadcasting company to have a television crew standing by. Later that evening, with the assistance of a young Japanese woman I met at an international boarding house, I telephoned Suze Hiyama. She was expecting my call. Reporters had been phoning her for weeks. I apologized for the inconvenience my coming had caused her, and assured her that when we got together I would be alone, except for an interpreter. We arranged to meet the following evening. On the phone, she had said she lived in an apartment above her place of business, and when the taxi pulled up in front of a beauty parlor named after my hometown in Connecticut and her home in the States, the Darien Beauty Shop, Suze was waiting outside. She bowed. I nodded, and as she eyed me inquiringly, I appraised her. Her face still showed signs that it had something very much wrong with it. The flap of skin grafted to her left cheek was too smooth and had not wrinkled the way one would expect it to with age. But while that might have attracted the notice of a stranger seeing her for the first time, it corresponded with the mental picture that I had carried for 25 years. After all, scarred was the only way I had known her. She seemed more unsure of me, which was understandable enough, considering the fact that she remembered an energetic, freckle-faced 9-year-old. Smiling down at her, she came barely up to my chest, I produced an old photograph taken the night she and her roommate dressed me up in a young girl's kimono. Her embarrassed little smile let me know I had passed the test. We spent the next few hours catching up on the previous 25 years. I told her what had happened to my family, and she introduced me to hers. Her husband shook my hand and thanked me for the hospitality my parents had extended to his wife. Her 2 teenage daughters grinned sheepishly. Her grandchild burst into tears. I had already decided that at some point in the evening I would bring up the matter of why I had come to Hiroshima. So, when we seemed to run out of questions for each other, and it was clear she was relaxed with me, I told her my primary reason for coming was to research a book about the Hiroshima Maidens. She looked down in apparent distress. She said she had cooperated with the making of a film about them several years earlier as a way of showing people she was doing well, and she was not happy with the way the film had turned out. Before coming to Hiroshima, I had seen that film. It was titled The Scars of Hiroshima. Suze had not granted an interview, but she had allowed herself to be filmed at work, styling a patron's hair. The camera angles and close-ups took every advantage of the irony of her work as a beautician to highlight the horror of her past.